Does running build muscle?
That's a particularly topical thing to talk about at the moment, particularly because we talk about it all the time at the Running Channel. Professional athletes are more focused on strength and conditioning now, and we're encouraging more people that they should be too to help with their running.
Yeah, so in short, yes, running does build muscle, but there are a number of different factors at play. So it's important to understand how our body builds muscle and specifically what role running plays in that process.
And everyone has massively different body mechanics as well as different muscle density. I mean, Sarah, do you think you can take me in an arm wrestle?
Yeah, I actually fancy my chances, although I won't be challenging you to an all-out 5K anytime soon. So in this video, we're going to go through how you build muscle, the different training that you can do, and also what role nutrition plays in building muscle too.
When we run, a number of different muscles in our body are activated. When they're activated, they're put under stress due to the repeated resistance of the running movements. And that stress can cause tiny micro tears in the muscle fibers. When those tears in the muscle repair, they grow back and they go stronger, and that makes you stronger. And that process of muscle growth is called hypertrophy.
Yeah, so the muscles that you're using in running are predominantly in the lower half of your body. And the primary muscles that are used in running, do you want me to name all of them?
I reckon you can do it.
Okay, so you've got your calves, your quadriceps, your hamstrings, your glutes, your hip flexors, and your core.
The hip flexor muscle's prime function is to bring the swinging leg forward and to then prepare the leg for another foot strike. As you run and you transition from mid-foot to toe off, your hip flexor muscles contract, and this will enable your tendons to store energy, which then bring the leg up and forwards as your foot leaves the ground.
Your quadriceps are a group of 4 muscles that run down the front of your thigh from the hip to the knee. This muscle group is essential for running as they prevent your knee from caving in or buckling in. If you've ever felt your leg buckle whilst running, it's a sign your quads are fatigued and under stress.
Around the back from the quads are the hamstrings, and that's a muscle group that's made up of 3 individual muscles. Now those muscles contract when your foot hits the ground and help to pull us forwards. They also help to bend the knee and to pull our leg backwards, helping with generating power during the push-off phase.
Your calf muscles are so important for running. So you've got 2 muscles in your calves, the gastrocnemius and the soleus. Now the chunky big bit at the top of your calf is created by the gastrocnemius, and the soleus lies underneath and is flatter. So your calf muscles help to absorb impact and they flex the ankle, allowing your foot to push off, which allows you to run.
Yeah, and I'm sure that anyone watching this will have experienced calf tightness at the end of a longer run or a particularly intense workout, because your calves do take the brunt of the impact when you're running, and they're such large muscles as well. So for me, they're the muscles that are most sore. What about you? Let me know in the comments after a hard workout or long run, where do you feel that soreness?
So if you're running and you're running and you're running, then surely all runners don't need to go to the gym and lift weights in order to build muscle.
Well, you'd think so, right? But no, not quite. There's a limit to how much muscle you can actually build just due to the action of running itself. And that's for a few reasons. Firstly, you're limited to the way that you move when you run, which means you can't operate your muscles in their extreme ranges of motion. You can't operate them in isolation, and you also can't do it in such a slow and controlled way where you'd also have full control of the weight that you use as you might be able to do in a gym. Now, there's also a conversation to be had about muscle fibers and their composition.
So there are 2 main types of muscle fibers.
Yes, slow twitch and fast twitch. Slow twitch are also known as type 1 muscle fibers.
And fast twitch are also known as type 2 muscle fibers.
Type 1 muscle fibers contract more slowly and can generate less force. They need oxygen to generate their energy, and also they're highly resistant to fatigue. So essentially what we're talking about here is muscle fibers that you use for aerobic exercise, so zones 1, 2, 3, 4, but not your high-end sprinting intervals.
So is everyone born the same?
No, there's a massive variance with your genetic makeup, and actually a study of twins showed that almost half of your muscle fiber composition is influenced by that genetic profile. So if you have a higher proportion of slow twitch muscle fibers, type 1 muscle fibers, then you're going to be more predisposed towards endurance sport, endurance activity. Whereas if you've got a higher proportion of fast twitch muscle fibers, you might be better at explosive activities like sprinting.
So what about you in your Olympic career? Because you definitely were not a 100-metre sprinter, but did you need any fast twitch fibers for the 1500?
Yes, and in that last lap of the 1500 metres, and particularly in that last 100 metres where I'm having to run sub 13 seconds at that level, which felt fast to me, but obviously it's not 9.58 seconds. I needed to make the most of what I had, so I did train for some explosive activity in the gym to maximise my potential there, as well as some very specific speed-based workouts on the track. But if I'm being honest, most of my career, particularly when you think about the 80-20 rule and I was running close to 100 miles a week, a lot of that was purely aerobic.
So we're not all Olympians, but a lot of people are wanting to become hybrid athletes now, where you might need a combination of slow twitch and fast twitch muscle fibres to compete in competitions like, for example, high rocks, which Andy thinks he'd be pretty good at.
Well, I'm excited about a different type of training stimulus, and ultimately that's what you've got there. You've got a combination of aerobic exercise in the running and then explosive power-based exercises in some of those gym exercises.
Okay, so there are two types of type 2 muscle fibres, confusing, I know. So type 2A muscle fibres contract more quickly and generate higher forces than type 1, but they do fatigue more quickly. These are useful for strength and power training, and they can use aerobic or anaerobic respiration in order to generate energy.
Type 2X fibres, on the other hand, are fully reliant on anaerobic respiration to generate energy. Anaerobic respiration allows cells to break down sugars and produce energy without the need for oxygen. These fibres are primarily engaged in high-intensity explosive movements such as sprinting, jumping, and heavy weightlifting. As a result, they fatigue much more quickly compared to activities like Zone 2 running, which relies more on endurance and aerobic energy systems.
Another important factor to consider is nutrition and calorie intake. Endurance athletes running aerobically will burn a significant amount of calories and may often be in calorie deficit. In order to build muscle mass, research consistently shows that you need to consume more calories than you burn. This is what's known as calorie surplus.
So when you were competing, were you careful about the different types of things that you were eating?
Yes and no. I think I was lucky in that I had access to a professional nutritionist who could advise me on what to eat and help design a kind of diet plan. But the reason I say no is that actually I struggled a lot of the time to eat enough.
Yeah.
Because I was exercising so much and burning so many calories. I must have been eating well over 4,000 calories a day, I assume, but I never actually worked it out exactly. I just needed to eat as much as I could in order to go and train again the next day.
Yeah, and I'm guessing important to eat the right things when you are eating so much to make sure that you're recovering and fueling correctly for each session.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it definitely is worth factoring in, are you getting in enough calories when you're working out? So for example, a light weightlifting workout for around 30 minutes, we usually burn around 110 calories. And then if you take that up to an hour, it might be around 440. Now, an important factor here is body weight. So if you are doing some weightlifting workouts, then why not try going onto an online calculator, which can help you work out how many calories you're burning to make sure that you are taking enough in to fuel the workouts that you're doing.
Yeah, there's no one size fits all thing here. Calories is a very personal thing. You just need to be aware of its impact if you are trying to gain muscle. Now, you might have heard about the importance of consuming protein after a workout or in general, and that's because protein contains the essential building blocks, the amino acids that your body needs to repair and to rebuild and grow muscle. Now, when you do exercise, particularly resistance exercise, then we've already talked about the fact that you get these micro tears in the muscle, and your body requires the protein to repair those tears and to rebuild the muscle fibers stronger and larger than before. Now, if you're only looking to maintain your muscle mass, then a general rule of thumb is to consume around 1.2 grams per kilogram of body weight of protein per day.
Now, if you want to build muscle, then you want to increase that to 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, and make sure that you're doing some strength training to accompany that too.
And not just that, you need to make sure you subscribe to the running channel. So
Yes.
Give this video a like, hit the subscribe button, because actually we can see in all of the stats that in the last few weeks, over 1 million people have watched running channel videos who aren't subscribed. It only takes a second, click the button now.
Thank you.
So we've come to the conclusion that yes, running can help to strengthen and build muscle, but let's have a quick run through the different types of runs that you might be doing and how those are going to impact your muscles.
Yeah, so let's start with endurance training. So running specifically for longer distances is going to help the endurance of your leg muscles. So think marathon training. You build up those long runs in marathon training and you're able to run for longer, perform better, and without fatigue as well. Now, over time, this isn't necessarily going to build your leg muscles, but they might get stronger and more toned.
Yeah, whereas let's talk about faster running, so your higher intensity training. So that could be your high-end intervals, it could be sprinting, whether that's on the track or out in a park like we are today, it could be hill sprints. Those have probably got the highest chance of triggering the hypertrophy we talked about in terms of generating muscle growth, with all of the caveats we've already mentioned about nutrition, and if you're trying to grow muscle, needing that calorie surplus and potentially being able to target muscles more specifically in the gym. But regardless of whether we're running fast or slow, we're going to be engaging our core too.
Yeah, core is so important with running. So that is made up of your abdominal muscles and your lower back, and that helps you to maintain your posture when you run, but also to keep stability as well. So whilst compared to targeted ab exercises in the gym, you're not necessarily going to be growing your abs when you run, but over time it is going to help to strengthen and tone your abdominal muscles.
So hopefully this video has answered all of the questions you could possibly have had about whether running builds muscle.
Yeah, let us know in the comments if you've got any questions or if you want any other videos on this subject. And hopefully we've inspired you to go and take on some speed workouts and strength sessions. I, for one, am so ready to get hench.
If that's not ridiculous enough, then make sure the next thing you do is check out this video here where Tom took himself out of his comfort zone when he was training to try and run a 5k PB recently in a 30-day challenge by heading to the gym.